Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. Funding for Chautauqua Sunrise is provided in part by the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency, with offices in Jamestown and Dunkirk, helping businesses to prosper throughout Chautauqua County. From supporting people with disabilities to enjoy great lives, to providing health care services that are available to anyone, the Resource Center has been improving our county for more than 60 years. Learn more about how the Resource Center makes a positive difference in people's lives.
Is getting vaccinated on your to-do list? We can help you check it off, because we make getting vaccinated easy. You've got this, because we've got you. To learn more, visit yougotthis.usaging.org.
From the Access Chautauqua Studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Chautauqua. We are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week from 9 to 10 a.m. Send events via email or call us live. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. And now, from the Access Chautauqua Studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Doc Hamels, and welcome to Chautauqua Sunrise. I am dressed up a little differently this morning. Maybe you never noticed. I don't know. Those of you listening to me on the radio, you'll never know the difference. And we're going to get to that here in a little bit, why I'm dressed this way. So, first of all, hello to the world, wherever you are, friends in Kenya, friends in the Ukraine, anywhere across the United States that are watching us live. I hope you're having a good day and you're safe out there. I want to remind you that since we are streaming live, you can call in. You can call in wherever you are in the world if you got the right phone numbers. And the phone number is really easy. Okay, we're going to pop that up here. It's 716-753-5225. And throughout the week, if you have an announcement or something you want to share, you can send it to me at Chautauqua Sunrise, all one word, at gmail.com. And we'll get your announcements, provided they fit our guidelines, on the air, okay? And generally, it's not-for-profits and announcements of certain events throughout the county that we generally share. But it could be a birthday, an anniversary, and so on, okay? All right, well, I'm glad to be back. Barb and I went to Maine for her birthday and had an enjoyable time up there. We like to get away from time to time and had some seafood. And so I'm a little tired today, but we're okay. Let's see. A couple things I want to share with you right off the bat is that this is grape harvest season. And you might say, big deal. Well, if you're new to the area or if you're visiting, grape farmers are beginning their harvest, and you might say, fine. Well, it's a different process than just going out there and picking grapes. You've got trucks coming and going on farm roads onto the main roads like Route 5, Route 20, and so forth. I speak from experience that it can be a harrowing experience, especially at night, because these folks are working hard 24/7 when the harvest comes. They get the call from the grape juice producers at any time to come in and bring their crops. So you may see trucks at night, you may see trucks first thing in the morning, and a lot of times they have long flatbeds with these bins on there. So just please give them, first of all, not right away, but give them some courtesy, because sometimes they're trying to pull out into traffic, and also to be aware of that they are coming into your traffic lane maybe, and just slow down, okay? So grape harvest safety, keep that in mind. Also, a lot of bikers out there on their bicycles right now. This is a great time of the year to be out there, and we've seen it. Oh, the Tour of Chautauqua is this morning, Jeff said. So right now there's going to be bikers all over the place. So please give them the right of way as well, and they should be staying in their lane on the side of the road. But just be aware of it. We've had stories lately of some terrible stories where people have gotten hit on their bicycles and fatalities. So just be aware of that when you're out on the road. All right, coming up today on our show, I've got some friends that we're going to be talking about a really cool event coming up in Westfield this coming weekend, and they're going to be on the air here shortly. And then my guests that is going to be joining us after that, we're going to be talking about the legislation and the ins and outs of what's going on here in New York State when it comes to cannabis. Okay, so you may have some interest in this, and you may want to give us a call, as I said earlier. So let me go through some announcements, and then I'm going to get to my first group of guests that are anxiously waiting to come on. All right, the first thing I have here is, we're going to talk about this here in a second, but let's pop it up anyways. There's going to be a cemetery tour, and all I'm going to tell you right now is that it's going to be next Friday and Saturday, and that we're going to go into great detail here shortly all about this. If you love history, this is the thing to do next weekend. And there's a gentleman to the right, my right, I don't know if it's your right or your left. I get all mixed up when I'm on TV. Anyways, that's me. I was portraying somebody there, but we're going to talk more about that shortly. So anyways, that's coming up here shortly. We're going to talk in great depth. So let's skip that, and let's go right to the next slide. All right, this is a really cool slide. Okay, I want to congratulate WRFA 107.9, Low Power to the People. They put our show on every Tuesday at 1 o'clock, so you can listen to this show all over again. That was Dennis Drew, a friend of mine, a fellow musician, and he's the co-founder, of course, with Steve Gustafson on 10,000 Maniacs, but Dennis was the head force behind the radio show. It's a low-power public access radio station, and we've had a great working relationship. Now, why I want to mention this, they're 20 years old like this weekend, and they're going to have a special on at 5 o'clock today on Arts on Fire, and Dennis is going to be the guest, and he's going to talk all about the founding of the radio station, and so good for you guys. Well, happy 20th anniversary. That's a long time. I thought we were old at 11. Okay. Recently, the Chamber of Commerce for Chautauqua County announced some award recipients, and I want to go through these because this is pretty cool. We always talk about shopping local and taking care of our smaller businesses and so forth. And the Chamber of Commerce, which we are a proud member of, honors certain categories, and people are nominated, and then these are the winners this year. So here we go. Emerging Business of the Year, Whiz and Smash in DeWittville. Hospitality Business of the Year, Central Station in Dunkirk. Service Business of the Year, Kravitz Tree Service out of Fredonia. Producer of the Year, just down the road, Ghostfish Brewing Company. Okay, that's kind of a new place. Not-for-profit of the Year, someone that we work with all the time here and have had them on the show, Prevention Works. They're going to be on the show later on and coming up in the next couple weeks. Business Champion Award, Chautauqua County Visitors Bureau of Chautauqua. And then, of course, Business of the Year, Persnickety Pies. How's that for a name? Persnickety. And they're out in Faulkner. So congratulations to all the award winners. And then they have something called legacy recognition. So like if you're really old and you've been around forever, they recognize you. So let's go through this. Chautauqua Institution. How old do you think they are, Justin? 125? Close. 150 years old. Brijota's Farmland Produce. Jamestown Media One Group. They're both 100 years old. Allegheny Health Network, Westfield Memorial Hospital's 82 years old. Farrell and Sons out of Dunkirk, 78. Jamestown Awning and Peak and Climber, 60 years old. Poochie's Carpet in Fredonia, 52 years. Artone Manufacturing in Jamestown and Half Acres in Mayville, both 50 years. Bellevue East in Faulkner's 33. 360 Graphics, Jamestown is 20 years. Dot's Gift Boutique, Jamestown, and the Green Door Tavern in Bemis, both 5 years. These businesses demonstrate not only longevity, but also years of commitment by multiple generations of families. So they keep it going, and that's hard to come by these days, is where people within a family want to keep it going. So I'm very happy to share that with you. All right, moving along here. This is called a Rural Mental Health Media Alert. And as many of you know, Jeff Winton has been on my show and others to talk about mental health in rural America. And you might think, what's the big deal? Well, it's a problem. You get out there where people are isolated, and there's suicide and drug overdosing and stuff like that. So let me just read what it says. Getting access to medications you need shouldn't be hard. Unfortunately, health insurance companies and pharmacy benefit managers keep adding new obstacles that patients have to overcome just to get the medications they need at their local pharmacy. Learn more about how we can change the current system by limiting the control of these dominant healthcare organizations. Dr. Madeline Feldman, a rheumatologist and patient advocate, will discuss how insurance coverage can limit access and impact patient out-of-pocket costs. Dr. Feldman will be joined by Alfred Pence, a pharmacist from Stanford, Kentucky, and owner of Coleman's Drug Store, an independent small-town family-run business since 1913. Even as a pharmacist, Mr. Pence has seen the challenges faced by patients across the country, both sides of the counter. Who's sponsoring this is the Grange Advocacy. And then you have the Coalition of State Rheumatology Organizations and so forth. And Rural Minds founder and Chairman Jeff Winton is available for media interviews prior to and after the webinar. Okay, so this 45-minute moderated webinar will be presented live by Zoom to honor the confidentiality and privacy of those attending this webinar. The name and the image of attendees will not be visible to others. It's going to be taking place on September 25th, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. How do you register? It's free. You contact Patrick Fannin at Rural Minds. So you can go on email and go Patrick at ruralminds, all one word, .org, or call him at 856-296-1744. 856-296-1744. And you might say, well, this is just a local thing. No, this is, Rural Minds is across the country, and they're working with farmers and folks that are working out in the rural areas across the country and here as well. So please, this is interest to you, please check them out. All right, let's go to slide 17, Drake's Journey Blood Drive. All right, so we got a few things going on here. Friday, September 27th, will be Drake's Journey Blood Drive from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Carlson Community Center, 50 West Lake Road in Mayville, New York. All right, that's coming up in Mayville Park. Thank you. West Lake Road, Mayville, New York. To make an appointment, give them a call at 716-529-4270. 716-529-4270. All right. As many of us know, without blood drives, some of us are in trouble, and they can always use all the blood donations as possible. Next, the Festival of Grapes. Westfield just had theirs. This is going to be held in Silver Creek, September 13th to the 15th, so that would be this weekend. Village Park, Route 20, Silver Creek. Free concerts and many vendors, along with an arts and crafts show, grape stomping, amusements and concessions, kids activity tent, petting zoo, parade, and a wine and beer tent. Come enjoy yourself and have a grape weekend. I say this all the time. There is no time of the year where there's nothing going on in Chautauqua County. And this time of year, we've got the farmers markets, we've got festivals, especially for grapes and so forth, and just getting outdoors. And what a beautiful weekend it's going to be. Then, simultaneously, so go to Fredonia or Silver Creek first, then come back to Bemis Point. Why? Because their fall festival is taking place this weekend as well. They hope that you'll enjoy them for a weekend of fall fun. There's going to be a street market with vendors, delicious fall food specialties in restaurants, draw a leaf discounts at the stores. Not sure what that means. I guess maybe you pull a leaf out and it's got a number on it. Petting zoo, open houses, and a whole lot more. And that's going to be in Bemis Point. And finally, I want to remind you that we have the Sprout Film Festival. And let me just read real quick about this. The Sprout Film Festival is a step up for Autism celebration, and that's going to be September 25th. The Resource Center and Filling the Gap, Inc. will pair two of their popular events when the Sprout Film Festival and Step Up for Autism takes place Wednesday at the Reg Linnaeus Center for the Arts on 3rd Street. Okay, that's September 25. The Sprout Film features 11 short films that celebrate the diverse lives and creativity of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The films seek to challenge assumptions and break down stereotypes about people with disabling conditions. Sprout is a traveling film festival, and each host community selects the films that they will screen locally. People can view the festival's trailer at resourcecenter.org/Sprout to get a feel for some of this year's films. Okay, this is the 8th time the Resource Center has brought the Sprout Film Festival to Chautauqua County, and the mission to the film festival is free. Okay, so a grant from Filling the Gap, which works with the Resource Center to improve the lives of people with disabilities. Okay, the doors open at 6 o'clock, and there's going to be prize drawings and auctions for sweets, it says. I'm not sure what the sweets are, but I'm sure it's really good. Okay, and there's going to be gift baskets that you can take chances on and just all kinds of stuff. So once again, that will be September 25 at the Reg Linnaeus. Okay, so that's my announcements. Now I'm going to change into character because I am going to introduce to you fellow actors and friends, Libby Sciarrino and Rick Mathews. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're here in costume. Why?
Well, we're representing the Westfield Cemetery Walk. That's going to be this weekend. It's going to be the 20th this Friday and the 21st Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual tour on Friday starts 6 to 9.
Okay.
And there will be carriages that you can ride on. It's $20 for adults. And those are every hour on the hour, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And on Friday, we start a little earlier, Saturday we start a little earlier from 5 to 8. And that is every hour on the hour for the carriage rides. And there are walking tours also, which are really nice. And those are from, 6:30 and 7:30. So there's two tours for the walking.
So when you say carriage, people think a carriage is like 3 or 4 people. These are bigger than that, right?
Right. These are actually a wagon that it can hold up to 16 people.
Well, sounds like fun.
It is a lot of fun. And the horses are beautiful. And we actually rent from Magic Moments Carriages. They're located in Bear Lake, Pennsylvania, and they do an absolutely wonderful job.
Yeah.
And we have wonderful tour guides. They have a lot of historical knowledge, and as you walk from character to character, they give you a lot of little tidbits about the history of Westfield and the history of the actual cemetery as you walk through. So it's very nice.
So let's hear from Rick. Rick, why would somebody want to come out to one of these things?
Well, because it's unique. It's one of the things I want to say about it is it's not spooky. We used to do this at a Halloween time, and the weather got pretty bad, so we moved it to the end of September. It's just a representation of the characters that were in Westfield, and one of the unique things, one year I was doing Fred Johnson, and Fred Johnson started the Johnson Winery in Westfield originally.
Right.
I thought he would need a pipe for the costume I had for him. So like Libby was saying, there's a walking part of it for people who want the cart.
Right.
And I just happened to light this pipe up when I saw them coming around the corner. And afterwards, the lady said to me, she says, wow, when you lit that pipe up, it's like it was something around the corner that's like enhanced it. Mm-hmm. So we've talked a little bit about building fires if you're a little tiny fire, if you're a military guy, or perfume type of things. It's very unique.
And these characters, how many are there going to be this year?
Going to have 6 characters, and I can name the actors, but to know who they're going to be portraying, you'll have to come to the walk.
Right.
Diane Scarpine, Doc Hamels will be there. He's fabulous. Rick Mathews, who you just heard from, is also fabulous. Tim Newell, Joni Mascaro Caruso, and David Brown. So they will all be there. I would like you to go to givebutters.com/Westfield or go to the pattersonlibrary.org websites to get your tickets.
Okay, so Give Butters. No, butter
Wait,
or butters?
Give
I see
butter.
butter.
Oh, Give Butter.
Butter.
Sorry.
Put an S on there and then
Butter.
never get in.
It's
Butter.
singular butter.
All one word. GiveButter.com.
And those will have the exact times that are available.
Right.
I kind of probably didn't say exactly all the times exactly
That's
right.
all right.
But right on those websites, the slot time is right on there, and it tells you if it's available or not. And as Rick said, this is a very family-friendly.
Yeah.
It's not scary. It's a historical tour, as he said. And you really learn a lot. We have refreshments as you check in, so people enjoy those. And we have a lot of volunteers who have made this wonderful.
And we have some sponsors, I believe, right? You want to
We
mention them real
do.
quick?
We do have sponsors. Johnson Estate Winery, Westfield Ag and Turf, Basil Chevrolet of Fredonia, and of course the carriages I mentioned from Magic Moments Carriages, and also Howard Hannah Holt.
Okay.
So they have wonderful donations because I think they really like the idea of us remembering history.
Great. So this is going to be a unique experience for people who have never done this before. It's lots of fun, and as you say, it's not scary, but we portray folks that lived and died, grew up, associated somehow with the Westfield community, and in some regards, sometimes Chautauqua County. I mean, these are bigger than life characters in some cases, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So last word, Rick, anything you want to add? Because we got to go here.
No, the donation, I mean, the money goes to a good cause.
Okay.
Oh, let me say exactly off of what he just said, because this is a collaboration of Lakeshore Center for the Arts, the Patterson Library, the Westfield Cemetery Association, and the Chautauqua County Historical Society.
Okay.
All proceeds that we get all go to benefit all of those societies and associations.
All right.
And that beautiful poster that you're looking at right now was actually made by Megan
Okay.
Hegna. She is the director of the library at Patterson Library and is really helping out very much with this. And you can see there's Doc.
Here I am.
He was Austin Smith last year, and he was a very prominent lawyer in Westfield at one time, and he has that beautiful brick house that's right in the middle of Westfield by the CVS.
All right.
So
So we got to go. So thanks for coming by, and I'll see you in the cemetery.
see you in the cemetery.
All right. Thanks for coming by, folks. Just to give you a quick little snippet, I will be portraying somebody named Charles. That's all you get out of me. We're going to take a little break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that piece, and I always enjoy working with my fellow actors over in Westfield. All right, right now I want to bring on, who's been very patiently waiting in the wings, Tom Spanos. I know the Spanos family quite well, and you are second generation anyways around here.
I'm second generation on Chautauqua Sunrise, and thank you very much for having me.
You are welcome. Tom, your mom said to me one day when she was on the air, she said, you should have my son Tom on the air, and I go, why? And she explained why, and I understand. This is what we're going to be talking today about is, I don't want to say controversial. I hope it'll be educational. How's that?
I have no doubts.
Okay. So, Tom, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Jamestown, New York. I was born and raised in the area. I graduated from Jamestown High School. Went on to UB for my undergrad as well as for law school. Got around a little bit. I studied abroad while I was an undergrad, and then after I got my law license, I went abroad down to South America, got some international experience down there. But I was always very interested in what was happening. Just as I was coming out of law school was this discussion around the legalization of cannabis. And as a young attorney, you know, it could be hard to break into the law field if you don't have a lot of family background in it. So I saw an opportunity there. But I got some business experience out in Colorado for a few years. I was hoping to break into the industry out there, but I was a little bit late to it. They had legalized in 2014. I moved out to Colorado in about 2016.
Right. The horses were out of the barn by then.
Everybody was already moving and shaking by then. But I got some really good business experience out there. Didn't really work as an attorney for a few years, but I kept my license in good standing. And then the pandemic hit, everything changed for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And in 2021, New York legalized cannabis with the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act. And that was passed in March of 2021. Okay. And right around that time, I had some friends from Jamestown who reached out to me, and they said, hey, you're an attorney, can you help us get a cannabis license? And those same two clients that I started with back in 2021 actually just got their licenses, and 3 years later. But I'm very, very proud of them. One of them is the first dispensary in Jamestown that's lifted, and the other is the first processor here in Chautauqua County, and that's Snowbelt Gardens. Very, very proud of both of them. It's been a long road getting there, and obviously over the course of 3 years since the MRTA was passed, the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, a lot has happened with the industry. Obviously, the governor has had quite a bit to say about it herself, and so we're going through kind of a period of change right now. Things got off to a bit of a slow start for the market in New York. You didn't have licenses start to roll out until 2022, when we converted over people who had hemp licenses into the cannabis market.
Wait a minute. Hemp license?
Right.
So what do you do with hemp?
So hemp is the same plant, but without any THC.
All right.
So you can use hemp for a variety of different things. It's used for fibers. It's used for various different production of things that don't have anything to do with getting intoxicated. And so those farmers that took the first step, got their farm set up to grow hemp, they were given the first opportunity
makes sense.
to grow adult use. Exactly. Okay. The difficulty was that the legislature passed a new law to allow these hemp farmers to convert over, but they didn't create a very clear pipeline to the retail stores that would sell them. So this created some legal confusion and some lawsuits that slowed the whole process down. So by the time those hemp farmers had product ready for market, there was only a handful of stores to sell them in. So this created a really big backlog. A lot of them suffered a lot of losses. I've consulted for a number of farms and things. Now we have, a couple years later, 182, I believe, retail dispensaries that are open for the state, but there's still a long way to go. Just to compare to some other states that have legalized, Massachusetts did a study about what market saturation would look like for them. Their target is somewhere in the range of 600 to 650 dispensaries for the whole state. So if you take their numbers and you just extrapolate them directly to New York, we should be looking at somewhere in the range of almost 2,000 stores for the whole state. So when you say, 180, that's great, but there's a long way to go till we really have, easy access for all communities in New York. I mean, as I was saying, having the first dispensary in Jamestown as a client, there wasn't much access for us out here in Chautauqua County. You could drive up to the reservation. They were allowed to do their own licenses and kind of roll this out immediately. But it's been a very slow rollout for us.
I mentioned earlier in the show that Barb and I just got back from Maine, and I was joking, but it's not far from it. It seemed like every corner along the highways there was a dispensary for cannabis, and they had the most creative names. I don't even, just crazy names. And I think I saw some in Massachusetts, but like you say, when you get to New York State, it's far and few between. But let's roll back the whole videotape on this. Why was the law first put together, other than for safety? Is it for safety purposes? Why is this law even exist?
So the MRTA, there's a lot that's going on in the legislation, but one of the big parts of it that New York has really separated itself from other legalized states with is their social equity program. And the priorities there have been to try to give opportunities to those who have not had opportunities in the past. The big focus has been, up until this point, on people who were justice involved. That means people who had convictions or run-ins with the law that had to do with cannabis in the past. So when the state rolled out their conditional adult use retail dispensary program, they gave those opportunities first to people who were justice involved. Now, there's some debates over whether or not that was the right move to go that particular route, because there are lots of categories of social equity under the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act that didn't get an early opportunity. Women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, disabled vets, all of them were also defined in the law as social equity categories. Another one that actually hits very close to home is what's called communities that were disproportionately impacted. This is communities that were policed more, that had more run-ins with the law for their citizens over cannabis than other jurisdictions. And Jamestown was actually designated one of those areas for the period when I was actually growing up. So you have a lot of people who were impacted by their run-ins with the law, but didn't quite get the same opportunity that some other people did with how the state rolled things out. Now, thankfully, with the more general rollout that happened last year, they had license applications that opened up for everybody in the fall of 2023. Now everybody's really getting their shot, so that's really nice.
Okay, obviously I have lots of questions. So, the law is stating that you can use marijuana recreationally, and I want you to define that here in a minute.
Absolutely.
If you're over 21?
Correct.
All right, so this law and everything you're talking about today is still protecting youth.
Absolutely. This is one of the key things that happens across states that legalize. You have protections for people under the age of 21. 21 is the standard just across all the states.
Same as alcohol, right?
Exactly. Same as alcohol. And so regulations and the law are always designed around making sure that legal cannabis stays in the legal pipeline and no illegal cannabis is coming into the legal pipeline. Right. So we're trying to protect against diversion of legal product out of the market or out of the legal market and inversion of illegal product into the market so that you can make sure that the product that's available out there is clean, tested, and safe for consumers.
Okay.
If you're buying it from some guy in a parking lot at 11 o'clock at night, you have no idea what you're getting. It could be full of pesticides, heavy metals, all sorts of things that legal growers struggle with as well. But that's why we have testing, so that we can identify what's wrong with the product and if we need to do anything to remediate it.
Okay. Not that I dwell on obituaries, but I do review them daily because, well, we all do, I suppose, to some degree. And I've noticed probably in the last 5 years, there have been way too many people dying, young people, and I categorize it somewhere between 25 and 35 years old. And there's always some little piece, no, let me take that back. often you see something, they had a struggle with fentanyl or something with that indication that they got involved with something that they shouldn't have. And I know there's opioids and things like that and all that sort of thing, but fentanyl pops up. So my understanding is if we legalize anything and the government controls it, hopefully it's a safe product. Is that what this law is all about?
That's exactly it.
So those that are lacing things with fentanyl for whatever crazy reasons they're doing it, hopefully that does not get into the mainstream through the legal process. Is that how I read this?
That's exactly correct. As the New York market is set up, just as in other markets, there's really no opportunity for that to happen to legal product. You have products that are produced, let's say the flower that's produced by the farmers, it'll get tested, and then it'll get sold to a processor who might make it into a final good, let's say gummies or edibles or drinks or anything like that. Then those products get tested again. Okay. After they've been made into their final form. Then they're packaged up in a way that the retailer is not going to be opening them or changing them before they're delivered to the consumer.
All right.
So you have multiple tests and a retailer who's responsible for making sure that the packaging is intact and everything before they sell it to a consumer.
Will that increase the market cost of marijuana?
Of course. So that's one of the big difficulties, is trying to get people to convert over from, let's say, potentially cheaper prices in the illegal market to slightly more expensive products in the legal market.
Before the show, you and I drew a comparison to the Prohibition days when people were making alcohol and booze, whatever you want to call it, in their bathtubs, or they were experimenting. And I see this on the History Channel all the time, where people went blind, they died, they had convulsions, they had seizures, because they were buying the cheap junk and not the good stuff that should be regulated. So I guess it's really a public health issue, right?
That's exactly correct. And so not only are you addressing a public health issue, you're bringing in more tax revenue on something that people were already buying in the black market, and you're moving that black market into the light of day and allowing people to have better insight into what they're buying, as well as better regulation by the government to help keep people safe, rather than just policing it, throwing people in jail, and then having those associated costs with both the justice system and with keeping them incarcerated.
All right, now I don't mean to be sarcastic or anything right now, but let me say what I got to say. People that, when they heard about this law, like, oh my God, we're going to heck in a basket here. But people have been using marijuana, hemp, whatever. I mean, hemp was not hemp in the old days. It was more marijuana for centuries. So this isn't. It's like alcohol. It's been around like to the Roman days, and so I guess it makes sense to make sure it's safe, because obviously, as I said before, people are dying from poorly produced product. So where does the revenue go?
That's a really great question. So in New York, we're supposed to use tax revenue, especially for the dispensaries. They have a portion of their tax that is specifically earmarked for the communities that they're from. So here in Chautauqua County, the dispensary in Jamestown that just opened up, 3% of every sale is going to the city of Jamestown, and then 1% goes to the county of Chautauqua. And so you see that same type of breakdown all across the state. Where you have cannabis businesses, you'll be seeing money going back into the communities.
Does the state get anything?
Yes, oh, absolutely.
What's the state's cut?
The overall tax is 13%. 9% goes to the state, 1% goes to the county, 3% goes to
I see it. Okay, I got you now. All right. All right. So what do you say to people when they say, well, fine, we have alcoholics. Fine, people that use marijuana often use other drugs. Or they often have said, my friends at Prevention Works, for example, say marijuana is a gateway drug. So where are we going with all this?
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think this idea of a gateway drug is really belied by the facts that we now start to have. I mean, Colorado legalized a decade ago, so we've started to be able to get really good information out of there that as you legalize cannabis, you actually see teen use of cannabis go down.
Why?
Because it's not cool anymore.
Oh.
It's legal, it's available at the
So
store.
you're not being naughty or sneaking.
Exactly, so it takes that kind of aspect of it away, and you actually start to see teen use go down. But similarly, I just want to note, when you're looking at different intoxicants, alcohol being a drug as well, you got to look at the overall effect that it has on both the person and the community. And there was a study, I apologize, I can't cite it off the top of my head. It was done in Europe because a lot of studies in the US are very highly regulated because cannabis is a Schedule I substance. But they were looking at the effects of various drugs, illegal drugs and legal drugs, on both the individual and the community. And when it came to the worst drug on the individual, you have your usual suspects, heroin, and those very heavy drugs.
Right.
But on the community, the worst impact was the most widely spread drug, and that's alcohol, because it not only affects the individual's health, you have horrible effects on the liver and the rest of your body, but as we know, alcoholics, it has a terrible effect on the family life, it has a terrible effect on your work life and the community when it comes to drunk driving and such like that. The effects just splash out everywhere, but you don't see those effects when it comes to cannabis. When it comes to driving, you're a third as impaired on cannabis just by reaction time and everything as you are on alcohol. And as a result, what that bears out to is you are 5% as likely to get into an accident driving under the influence of cannabis as you are under the influence of alcohol. That is not to say to drive under the influence of either. It is illegal to drive under the influence of either. But it's not as dangerous as something that we already allow people to control themselves on. You're allowed to make the decision about whether or not 1 or 2 drinks with dinner is enough to impair you on your drive home. We only go by the effects. Are you driving over the line? Are you, not driving safely? That's what the police officers are looking for, and they do the same thing when it comes to people who are under the influence of cannabis. If you're not driving safely, you should be pulled over and you should be held accountable. But if you are being safe, if you are consuming in a manner that's responsible, then you're not putting others at risk, regardless of what legal substance you're working with.
George Barella was my guest a while back, and we talked pretty much at length. It was the very early stages of the legislation. I can't tell you what year it was. I'll say a couple of years ago, at least 2 years ago maybe. And he basically said it was a pretty bad law, not the way it was written. I'm not sure where his position was on it, but the way it was, he felt that the way it was, it didn't include certain things. And if my memory serves me correct, and George, I apologize if I'm misquoting you, but he felt that it didn't cover, well, if I lace brownies with marijuana, if gummies with THC in it, or I'm making this up. What does it cover? I mean, is it just raw marijuana that goes into a cigarette, or does it cover food items?
So it covers everything. And I remember what, I told you I did my homework.
Yeah,
so, Senator Barella was talking about how because you can consume edibles essentially anywhere, that there is no regulation. And that's not entirely accurate. This is one way that I disagree with him. I think that the law was very well designed. I'll just say that. It, very briefly, it gives everybody a piece of the pie. So I had mentioned before the show how you have to pick a side in New York. You can either be on the retail side of the market or you can be in the production side of the market. That way you can't have any giant business that takes over the entire cannabis market. That's good. You have more competition. That's better for prices for consumers, as well as creating more competition for trying to get into retailers themselves in the first place. But with regards to edibles and things, which we're seeing so many different brands come on into the market in terms of the gummies. There are absolutely limits, and they're very important limits. For example, on package size, you can only have a maximum of 100 milligrams of THC per package.
Okay, so
per serving.
What does it look like? Okay.
Right. So one gummy, on the other hand, will only be 10 milligrams.
Okay.
That's important. When you're looking at the illegal market, the black market, you could have people producing gummies with 1,000 milligrams of THC, so 100 times as much as we allow
so again,
in the legal
control and public health. Right?
Exactly correct. Okay. This, the state's saying on this is start low and go slow. So most people would start with maybe a 5 milligram serving of a gummy, but some people who are chronic users or daily users who have a high tolerance, they might take 30 to 50 milligrams of edibles. But just because
okay, hold on one second here. We got a little bit of a equipment failure. I do that like 7 times a year. Okay, so no, that's all right.
So just because you can consume edibles potentially anywhere doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be people running crazy in the streets, on edibles. People can still be held accountable to public decency laws and things like that. There are still standards that exist. So just the fact that you can't, that we are only regulating smoking of cannabis, which we do in the same way that we regulate smoking cigarettes. This is where I disagree with Senator Borrello, because I think that this was well crafted. Okay. We're treating like things alike.
Okay.
And so when it comes to smoking, we all adhere to the same rules of the New York Clean Indoor Air Act.
Okay.
Right? You're not allowed to smoke within 50 feet of an entrance. But otherwise, if you're out walking on the street, walking on the sidewalk, you're allowed to smoke a cigarette, you're allowed to smoke a joint. Both of those things are treated the same. If something is an intoxicating substance, like alcohol is, you're not allowed to drive under the influence of alcohol, you're not allowed to drive under the influence of cannabis. So we're treating similar effects similarly.
Okay.
And I think that that's very
Question
good.
just popped up in my earpiece. Where's vaping come in?
So vaping is treated similarly to smoking in many regards, but when it comes to your consumption at, say, a private business or something, they can have slightly different restrictions on that versus smoking. But I'm not a Clean Indoor Air Act attorney, so that's a little bit outside of my wheelhouse.
Okay, so for quite some time now, marijuana products, I'll call it more general, have been used medicinally for glaucoma, for a number of things. I think there's even things that you can put on your arthritis and things of this nature. Where does that all come in?
So this is one of the really big opportunities for the legal market, is helping to flesh out the research on this subject. Because up until now, it's primarily, small anecdotal evidence, because we weren't allowed to research it at the federal level, for example. It's still tightly controlled. So now that you have states delving into this, and New York does have a specific research license, so people can start to pursue these things, we can start to back up those things with more evidence. Some of them already have very good preliminary evidence. The positive effects for people who are undergoing chemo, for example, with both their appetite and pain management, I think that those already stand on their own. But more research is going to lead to better applications for this. The fact of the matter is, cannabis interacts with a system of your body that's already there. It's the endocannabinoid system. Your body was already designed to interact with the molecules that you get from cannabis. And have you ever heard of runner's high?
Oh yeah.
Runner's high
is the endorphins kick in. Yeah, I ran cross country.
Right. That's your endocannabinoid system kicking in.
Yeah.
And so, unlike alcohol, which is literally poisoning you, right? Cannabis is just interacting with your endocannabinoid system.
Okay.
And so there are so many different ways that this could be beneficial that we don't know about, but there really hasn't been much opportunity or legal way to provide the research for them.
Okay. As I recall, I was a town councilman a number of years ago, and when the law was starting to kick in, or they were introducing it, help me with this, villages can opt out, or towns or cities. So can we talk about that? Because I don't think everybody in Chautauqua County is on board with this law.
And that's completely understandable. You know, every community was given an opportunity to say, do we want to allow retail cannabis businesses? And that distinction is important, because if you're on the production side of the market, you're not seeing customers in the first place. So as long as you're following your municipality's rules for, let's say, cultivation like a farmer, or production like any type of manufacturing, you're allowed to be anywhere in New York State.
All right, so let me get this straight. So in my hometown, you could have a field of marijuana as long as you have done what?
You have to follow strict security guidelines to make sure that that marijuana does not get stolen. You know, that generally includes security fences, security cameras.
Holy
things
mackerel.
like that. Yeah, because we want to make sure, like I said earlier on, that this legal product is not leaving the market in improper ways. We want it to go through the pipeline, end up at a store, and be sold to customers.
So
who have
we don't
been
want people leaving the show today saying, okay, I'm going to grow up, grab all those seeds, and I'm going to start up my own farm. You got to do it by the book, or you're going to get in trouble.
Well, that's if you want to be a cultivation business.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There are rules if people want to grow their own at home.
Yeah.
There are home grow rules.
Oh.
So you're allowed to have, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, it's 3 immature plants, 3 mature plants at your household. I think it can be double that if you have 2 adults who live in the household, but no more than that.
Holy cow.
So
who enforces that?
Well, I mean, that, as long as you're not, I would assume it's some kind of not self-reporting, but reporting. If someone sees that you have a whole field of cannabis plants, they might be calling to check in with the Office of Cannabis Management about whether or not you have a cultivation.
Wait a minute, there's a place called Office for Cannabis? What is that?
So
this is new to me. I haven't heard this before.
This is a part of the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act. It established this department, which is under the Liquor Authority in New York, that regulates cannabis. That's the Office of Cannabis Management, and they are headed by the Cannabis Control Board and the Cannabis Advisory Board.
These are all real, right?
These are all real things.
Per the law. So,
yes.
All right, jurisdiction-wise, what's the local guy or woman that's in charge of that in Chautauqua County? Is it a district thing, or is it?
I don't think that there is one, to be honest.
So there's nobody policing the thing.
Well, that's not to say that. There are inspectors that work for the Office of Cannabis Management. They inspect generally the legal businesses, but it is illegal to operate a cannabis business without a license. So you do still have police enforcement of the inspections and things of people who are trying to operate without a license.
So as of 9/51, September 14, 2024, there's only one place in Chautauqua County that's growing it legally?
No. There's one dispensary in Jamestown. I think there might be more opening up soon.
That's retail.
That's the retail. On the production side, there are a number of farms and producers.
Oh.
Well, and now there's one processor that's still on the production side.
Processor,
Yep.
retail, but the farmers. So how many farmers are doing it? We know legally.
I know that there's at least 2 that I know of. There's Fare Thee Well Farms, who I'm well acquainted with here in Chautauqua County, and I believe Weaver Farms is also here in Chautauqua County.
So we're talking very small.
Here in Chautauqua County, it's been a bit slow, but those 2 were both hemp farmers prior, so they were able to convert over
legally
into the legal market, into the legal adult use market.
All right, I'm not being smart right now, but how big are these farms? I mean, what are we talking about? Acres or?
Right now, the state has only allowed them certain canopy sizes to grow in, and they've kept it small, under 25,000 square feet. So you have. And you're able to
I can't
grow,
even do the math on that.
Right. It's roughly half an acre for some of them.
That's pretty small.
For indoor grow operations, it's been even smaller. And this has been one of the difficulties for these smaller farmers, because the medical companies that were providing medical cannabis before were allowed to enter into the adult use market, and they were allowed to grow 50,000 square feet or 100,000 square feet. I apologize.
It doesn't matter. It's still small.
All indoor. So they're able to pound out 4 crops in a year, when the farmers who were operating only outdoors up until now only had 1 season.
Okay.
Maybe 2 crops.
So let me get this straight. You got your farmer.
Yep.
You got the processor.
Yes.
And then the retail.
Yeah, there's a distributor in between the 2 of them.
There's the middleman in there.
Yeah, right.
What does the processor do with it?
So a processor can do a wide variety of things. Anything that is not just whole flower product you're getting from a processor. They can make pre-rolls, they can make gummies, they can make chocolates, they can make drinks. So you have a couple of different companies in the States that have started to roll out cannabis beverages. So, you know, it's interesting because, you know, it's the look and feel of just having a beer, but, you know, obviously it's a cannabis product instead.
Really?
So the effects are different.
So what was the first product you said? Roll-out?
Pre-rolls are
What's a
just pre-rolled joints, pre-rolled marijuana cigarettes.
All right. See, I got to get the lingo here because, you know, I'm in the media here. I got to know what I'm talking about.
Right. But then you also
Pre-rolls.
have, at the upper end of the processing spectrum, you have concentrates. So those are where they've really stripped the THC and the other terpenes from the plant to make concentrated THC or other products like that that some customers enjoy.
Okay, next question, since we're on processing here.
Sure.
Can New York State processors ship it outside of New York State?
No, because it's illegal under federal law.
What?
All states that legalize
Stays in-house.
has to stay in their state, exactly. So there are laws in New York against product leaving the state. There are federal laws against product leaving the state. And so that it's all supposed to just be our New York market. Until things get legalized at the federal level, it's going to stay that way.
My brain just went bye-bye. So at the federal level, marijuana is illegal?
Correct. At the federal level, marijuana is still a Schedule I controlled substance, which means under federal law, it has no medicinal use, no proper use, nothing. It is treated exactly the same.
That must get confusing.
Exactly.
All right, so let's get to law enforcement, if we can jump around.
Sure.
So how does a police officer, or a state trooper, or sheriff, undersheriff, whatever, how do they know you're under the influence of marijuana?
I mean, it's going to be the same way that they know you're under the influence of alcohol. And honestly, if they're watching drivers, you should be looking for the same signs regardless. Is someone driving dangerously, right? If someone's following the speed limit and they're not, you know, tailgating anybody or they're not driving off the road or anything, how does a police officer know they're doing anything wrong at all, regardless of what their situation is? We have to be looking for those signs.
Okay, we have a caller. We only got 2 minutes, so good morning.
I'm sorry, you've only got 2 minutes. Tom, are you related to George Spanos?
Yes, he's my father.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought I knew all of the children of Mary Ann and George.
Well, here's one.
I am one of them, yes.
Well, I just want to say that I think it's great. I have a question, though.
Yes, please.
The original intent was to keep marijuana out of the hands of the pushers to keep the drug addiction down. Did that happen?
Yeah, well, in terms of keeping cannabis out of the hands of dealers, I think they're taking the business right out from underneath them with the legal market is really what's happening here. So by opening up legal stores and encouraging people to go and shop at those stores, we're taking away the customers from the black market.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. I don't want to hold you up. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks, Linda. Okay.
I'm sorry. I have lots of things to say, but I guess I called in too late. But I didn't want to interrupt you because your talk was so fascinating.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for calling. All right. Well, Tom, now we're down to a minute. So, and that's okay. That was a great question and a good wrap up. So, where do people find out more information? I mean, after somebody's watching this, their head might be spinning like mine. I mean, look at all my notes here. So, what should they do if they want to know more about all this?
If they want more general information, you can always go to the Office of Cannabis Management's website at cannabis.newyork.gov. But if you're interested in getting involved in the cannabis market and need help or just an initial consultation, you can reach out to me at thomasgspanos@gmail.com.
Okay, super. Tom, this has been fascinating to say the least. I mean, I'm glad that they're protecting individuals, but I certainly hope that this is not going to drift down into kids, and I'm really a strong advocate on that. All right. So, folks, I hope you learned something. I did a lot. And Tom Spanos, thanks for joining me today. Maybe we'll have you come back another time, and we're going to see where we are in a year or two. How's that?
That would be great. Thank you so much for having me.
Lots to think about, folks, and I hope that was thought-provoking. It was for me. And, we do this every week at 9 o'clock Saturday mornings. You can check us out on Spectrum 1301 throughout the week at 2 and 8. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. We are everywhere. And, of course, on WRFA 107.9. A little power to the people. Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. Happy 20th anniversary again for you folks. We're going to do this next week. See ya. Have a great weekend. The weather's wonderful, and there's all kinds of things to do here in Chautauqua County. I'm out of here. Bye-bye.